Hello, I'm Councillor Jenny Andrews, the Mayor of Rotherham, and I want to thank you for joining us to mark Holocaust Memorial Day 2022. For the second successive year, we have taken the difficult decision to commemorate this most important day virtually, as opposed to the usual event in All Saints Square. This is due to the continuing high COVID rates in our borough. And while we are sad that we can't come together in person, we think at this current time a virtual commemoration is the most appropriate. Holocaust Memorial Day is the international day on 27th of January to remember the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, alongside the millions of other people killed under Nazi persecution and in subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. This is one of the thousands of activities that are taking place across the UK, supported by the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust. We hope that everyone who attends the Holocaust Memorial Day events learns more, empathises more deeply, and goes to take action to build a better future. The theme for Holocaust Memorial Day is one day, 27th of January, that we put aside to come together to remember, to learn about the Holocaust, Nazi persecution and the genocides that followed. In the hope that there may be one day in the future with no genocide, we learn more about the past, we empathise with others today, and we take action for a better future. I would like to thank all the speakers and performers who have contributed to this year's event. We sincerely hope that for the Holocaust Memorial Day 2023, we will be able to come together as a community. I will now hand you over to the leader of Rotherham Council, Councillor Chris Reid.
As the Mayor has said, the theme for this year's Holocaust Memorial Day is one day. That could be one day in history that we can learn about, or more importantly, learn from. The 20th of May 1940 is thought to be the day that the first prisoners arrived at Auschwitz concentration camp, which subsequently grew into a complex of more than 40 concentration and extermination camps by the Nazis in occupied Poland. Today, the 27th of January, marks the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Or the 12th of July 1995, when, against the backdrop of the war in the former Yugoslavia, Bosnian Serb troops descended on the town of Srebrenica and began separating men from women and children. An estimated 8,000 Bosniak men and boys were subsequently murdered. And on this day each year in Rotherham, we bring together different parts of our community, people from different religions and different backgrounds, to take a moment and reflect and ensure that we never allow such terrible events to affect communities like ours in the future. Thank you. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce St Anne's School Choir to sing their school anthem, which I'm sure when you hear the words you'll agree is very fitting for today's event.
We can hear your want to do is live our lives, healthy, safe and happy, to live our lives, respecting each other, knowing every child is my sister or brother, knowing what is color or how we pray. It doesn't matter, we can hear your voice.
On Holocaust Memorial Day 2022, this one day, let us all come together in our communities to learn from the genocide and the Holocaust for a better future. I want to start off with a poem written by Mark Hayward, which is called I Kept on Walking. And this poem is a series of competition winners for Holocaust Memorial Day 2012. I kept on walking as she threw a stone, for it was not thrown at me. I kept on walking past the man who groaned as he was hit behind the knee. I kept on walking past the rundown homes I had somewhere else to be. I kept on walking as I clutched my phone and pretended not to see. I kept on walking as the words were thrown, every insult, every plea. The wounds they inflicted were not my own and nothing to do with me. I'll keep on walking from the things I've known, but refuse to really see. I'll keep on walking, but I'm not alone. You're keeping every step with me. This poem, it gives us a very powerful message, and that is that we should all face up to the various kinds of oppression, discrimination and hatred in society. The Prophet of God, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him, he once stated that every person has an obligation of giving charity every day the sun rises. When asked by one of his companions that how is that possible, to give charity so often every day, how is that possible? To which he replied that the doors of goodness are many, and he stated that to enjoin the good and forbid the evil, listening to the aggrieved, these are acts of charity. Guiding the blind and showing the seeker his need is charity. Striving as far as the two legs could carry you with deep concern and giving help to those who ask is charity. All these are acts of charity which are an obligation upon us. And then finally, he stated that smiling in the face of your fellow brother is charity. Removing a harmful object from the pathway of others who are passing by is an act of charity. So the message is very clear, that we must all do whatever we can for one another, whether that means to remove an obstruction from the pathway and clear it, whether it means to visit the sick, or whether it means to speak for that which is right. These are all acts of charity. During this ongoing pandemic, COVID-19, we have seen many of our loved ones, those who are very close to us, leave this world. And this has given us this has brought into focus the reality of our vulnerabilities as human beings. Let us all, for the time that we have left, become such people who care, who show compassion, who show love for one another and for humanity at large. Thank you.
The theme for this year's Holocaust Memorial Day is One Day, and I was immediately reminded of these words. I wonder if they sound familiar. One day I will tell you there are no new cases, and I'll read that the Nightingale is closing down. We'll take time to reflect and remember those lives lost, and we'll hug our loved ones. Our kids will play with their friends and finally go back to school. Sport will return whether you like it or not. Cafes, shops and cinemas will open their doors. One day, plans will be made and kept. And until then, we'll be here to help you understand what's happening every step of the way. Does that sound familiar? A hopeful picture of the future, one day, and a promise to be with us on the journey. Words courtesy of the BBC at the beginning of the pandemic back in early 2020. A pandemic that, whilst not over, it seems at least we are beginning to turn the corner of the latest wave. Nonetheless, those words about one day sought to bring hope that things would change, that a better day was coming. There's a passage in the Bible from the book of Revelation that offers a hopeful picture of the future. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them, they will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away." The Christian faith holds to the view that one day all will be well. Ultimately, humanity will live in love and peace with God, with one another, and with the whole of creation. One day. As we arrive at another Holocaust Memorial Day, my hope remains that one day we will mark this day and anti-Semitism will be no more. That acts of war and the dehumanization of the other will have ceased. That our diversity of cultures, religions, and life experiences will serve to help us hold dear our common humanity rather than divide. One day. Until that day, may we in hope remain firmly resolved to, in all we say and do, work towards that day.
Hello. Opposite the United Nations building in New York is a curved wall called the Isaiah Wall. It bears the following inscription: "They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." The words are taken from chapter 2, verse 4 of the book of Isaiah. It contains many futuristic prophecies which depict a new world order with different priorities and a better way of life. He is always optimistic and hopeful for the future. Many of his predictions are messianic. Isaiah is essentially saying in this quote that one day we will finally learn to live in peace and harmony with each other, and thus have no need for weapons. The armaments industry is the biggest in the world, consuming billions of each country's economy. Imagine if one day we reach a point where there is no longer a threat, so we don't need any guns or warships or fighter jets to protect ourselves. The only question will then be, what will we do with all the leftover material? Simple, says Isaiah. We can beat the swords into plowshares, which in plain English means we can turn it all into agricultural equipment to provide people with food. The cost of living would become so much less, and then everyone would benefit. Imagine no more starving nations in far-flung corners of the world. We will have billions in foreign aid to invest in failing economies. The world would look completely different. Indeed, one day. But in order for that to happen, we need to learn to live in peace with each other And that requires a sea change acceptance of every human being, regardless of race, colour, faith, or any of the features that set me apart from you. One day we will learn to celebrate every person's unique contribution to the world at large or at small, because that is how God sees it. Otherwise, he would not have made each and every human being in his image. Diversity is what makes unity meaningful. One day, we will perfect human friendship to make armies, navies, and air forces obsolete. One day, we will return to a world the way it was originally intended. That is the Garden of Eden. One day. I search and I wander, lost and alone. My friends but a shadow, and no place my home. The sun shines so strongly, but I cannot see. The road is too steep, with no passage for me. I'm merely a child, but inside I've grown old. The world cannot touch me, for each touch is cold. The warmth that I search for is nowhere in sight. I see only sorrow, I see only night. A voice came to greet me, extending its heart. A voice pleading softly, do not stand apart. A voice giving warmth I've not known before. A voice casting light as it opened the door. I followed that voice, and soon I could see a room filled with children, all welcoming me. The beauty of friendship was drawing me near, a light in the darkness, so pure and so clear. That voice is still with me, it hovers above. It echoes my feelings, it fills me with love. The sounds all around me awaken my soul. My heart is so youthful, though I have grown old. I still cannot rest, my work is not done. I dream of young voices resounding as one. So much yet to ponder, so much I must do. The voice I have followed must reach you and you. I dream that one day you will see that room full of children, all of whom believe that all of humanity, all colors and creeds, that everyone matters to God, we're all dear. We'll follow that voice, and soon there will be a world where our children can live peacefully, loving each other. We hope and we pray we'll shatter the darkness, turn light into day. I'll whisper its message, so simple and true, and pray that one day thy voice speaks to you.
Hello, I'm Sharon Kemp, Chief Executive of Rotherham Council. Thank you for watching our virtual Holocaust Memorial Day event today. On behalf of the Mayor, the Leader and myself, I'd like to express our gratitude to all the contributors and to you for watching. The purpose of Holocaust Memorial Day is to give us all an opportunity to remember and reflect upon some of the most horrific acts committed in what is relatively recent history. Most importantly, it's incumbent on all of us to learn from these acts and make sure we do everything we can, both collectively and individually, to ensure they never happen again. And this begins with respecting others. In Rotherham, we are fortunate to have a vibrant and diverse community, something we should celebrate. Today, we all stand together, shoulder to shoulder, to pay our respects and remember the victims of the Holocaust as a united and strong borough. I hope you are able to join the National Holocaust Memorial ceremony at 7 p.m. this evening, which you can register to watch live via the Holocaust Memorial Day website. I would encourage you to explore the website to find out more about the Holocaust, subsequent genocides, and why Holocaust Memorial Day is important and relevant. That brings to an end today's proceedings from Rotherham. Local singer-songwriter Nic Harding, who has written a song on the theme of this year's Holocaust Memorial Day, will play us out. Thank you for joining us.
One day I woke and the birds were gone. The skies were clear, no bird song. My body was weak, but I was strong. Stuck in a place I didn't belong. One day I woke and the birds were gone. Silence was louder than their bird song. There was no choice but to carry on. The day